According to Moody's investor service company, ICRA, India is expected to add around 4,000 megawatts of overall data center capacity, representing an investment of around $10 billion in the next 5 years. The sum, which is one of the highest investment outlooks for a single nation in today's market, is, however, just the tip of the iceberg. With India's digital transformation economy expected to reach $710 billion by 2024, registering a compound annual growth rate of 74.7%, the nation's need for digital infrastructure is beyond any scale seen elsewhere. India is one of a kind. This proud, powerful nation is inviting a wave of greenfield investments in technology and communications, but also holding fast to a green growth philosophy aimed at protecting the environment and precious natural resources. India's national and regional governments have spearheaded several initiatives to modernize the country, and their takes on regulation and legislation have delivered in the past few years a new breed of operators who enter the country, many for the first time. Such is the case of hyperscaler EdgeConneX, which has partnered with the Adani Group to form ICRA to develop and operate data centers throughout the country. Their target? 1 gigawatt of IT load sooner than you think. As this joint venture celebrates its first anniversary, we are now joined by ICRA's Sanjay Bhutani, Senior Vice President and Head of Data Center Business. We're also joined by Philip Marangella, Chief Marketing and Product Officer at EdgeConneX. And we are also joined by Jabez Tan, Head of Research for Structured Research, to discuss the current state of the Indian market, whether there is a power struggle, and where the sustainability effort is headed, as well as the future vision for ICRA as the company gets closer to a wave of ribbon-cutting ceremonies. Everyone, thank you so much for coming on this webinar. This is a fascinating topic. This is a very exciting joint venture as well. Let's start by getting yourself to introduce who you are and who you do. And maybe let's start with you, Sanjay.
Hi, everyone. My name is Sanjay Bhutani. I am part of ICRA and been a founding member of ICRA. I'm the rather actually first employee of ICRA. It has been an exciting journey and happy to participate and talk you through all the Indian growth story today.
Okay, well, I'm curious to hear your story. You started from day zero. It'll be interesting to see how the company has changed over the last few months. And Philip.
Yeah, hey, Zhao, good to see you again. Philip Marangella here, Chief Marketing and Product Officer at EdgeConneX and a JV partner of ICRA. So I've been here for 7 years, not from the beginning, but certainly a fair long amount of time.
And let's face it, I mean, those 7 years, especially the last 3 or 4, have really delivered on big growth across many regions.
Yeah, we have been busy.
Very busy. I'm always there to kind of chase you to see where you're going next. And Jabez.
Thanks, Zhao. Jabez Tan from Structured Research. We're an independent analyst research firm focused on the internet infrastructure ecosystem.
Very cool. And the last time I saw you, I mean, it was in Hawaii, when we had a really lovely background behind us and an helicopter making a lot of noise.
That's right. PTC.
Oh, here we go. I mean, it's only 5 months now to go, about 160 days, I think. Not that one is counting, but all right, guys, but thank you so much for your introduction. I mean, as I said in my introduction, the digital transformation market in India is expected to reach about $710 billion by 2024. So that's a compound annual growth rates of about 74%, which is just crazy to think of. And then, of course, there's going to drive a lot of investment for the data center space, which is expected to attract between $10 to $11 billion over the next 5 years. So my main question is kind of just to paint a picture of what's happening in India. So it really is, let's talk about the trends and what's driving all this digital transformation growth, which then, of course, cascades down to data centers. So first question is really, what is driving the growth in digital transformation across India? So who wants to take the first hit?
I'll go.
All right, Sanjay, you offer yourself.
So India is actually has been a second fastest rate of growth in digital adoption. And our digital economy actually could contribute potentially about 18 to 23% of overall economy of India. And like healthcare, e-commerce, e-learning, next-gen financial services, these are the ones which are actually driving primarily growth part of it. Government is also envisaging a lot of projects, including high-speed internet, which is going to every household through a fiber. And obviously 5G is also going to contribute. And this will be approximately about 1 billion internet users. And there are 5 major segments which are driving growth. One is the consumer data. Today, India stands at about 8 GB per month users are using. If I recollect correctly, about 2016, this was 54 times lesser. That kind of growth has happened on the consumer data side of it. Government is also playing a catalyst role in this. This digital economy is actually dependent on smart cities. Digital India and Meghraj is one project, which is a cloud project, which government has started some time back. The next one is enterprises. Enterprises are not only just generating data, they are actually moving all the workloads from on-prem to a third party, which is public and hybrid cloud, which is a big change in India. And India has got a long runway to cover because we are still at about 9-10% of cloud adoption today. And the next one is obviously the cloud players. India public cloud market is actually, which is IaaS, SaaS, and PaaS, is likely to cross about 7 billion by 2024. That's one piece, and the market is growing at between 22 to 25% CAGR. That also, India has got almost about 13 SaaS unicorns across states. India is also known for a startup capital of the world, with over 100 unicorns are available here. And we are the third largest unicorn hub behind USA and China. That is something which is very fascinating. A combination actually of these factors has led to a staggered growth in demand, which is enterprise side of it, hyperscaler side of it, and data center capacity is going to grow more than 1 gigawatt in 2 years. The next frontier, which I clearly see, is actually supported by 5G and advanced technology, which is going to play a key role. The value created by digital economy for the future is about 60-65 million jobs, and which is further going up every month and every quarter basis. There are tremendous opportunities across various sectors, which is actually fueling the growth of these drivers, all existing in about new age sector like fintech, OTT, CDN, online education, video collaboration, and autonomous car, online gaming. And these are the sectors which are actually leading to all the growth. India is also scaling the infrastructure, and massive transformation is taking place across value chain. So these are the factors which I feel which are the key. At the same time, infrastructure financing is also one piece which is important to this growth. Construction technology, digital technologies, enabling innovation and efficiency and sustainability is core of the sector, which is very important part of it. So yeah, AI and ML, IoT, 5G, these are the sectors which are actually real adoption is actually just taken off. So these are the things which I thought is important, which are playing a key role to India's growth.
I mean, everything you say, it's packed with huge numbers, and it really paints the picture of just how early we are still in this journey, and we already talk about tremendous amounts of expansion in numbers. I mean, when you said 9 to 10% cloud adoption today, that still means there's 90% of the journey to go, and what we're doing today already, it's quite gigantic. Philip, what's your view of the markets now that you're operating in there as well?
Yeah, well, you know, as significant as those numbers are that Sanjay referenced, I actually think they're low, right? And I think there's so much necessary to be built out in India in terms of their digital economy and their digital transformation and journey. A lot of that kind of technology was concentrated in, say, Mumbai, but it's a country of 1 billion people, and some of these smaller cities dwarf some of the major cities in the US. And so with all those technologies that Sanjay referenced, as adoption grows, and you know, you're going to need the digital infrastructure, right? The networks, the data centers, the power to kind of coalesce to be able to enable and that digital economy. And that's what that's the genesis of the partnership, is to solve for some of the kind of national platform of digital infrastructure that we're looking to build. And that's why we entered into India, is because the customers that EdgeConneX serves today, a lot of those hyperscalers and web scalers and so forth that want to go into India, we've partnered with Adani because of their legacy around building out infrastructure across the country. And, you know, there's a good kind of synergy between the two firms to you know, build out, you know, our intent is a gigawatt of capacity throughout all of India, not just the major cities.
No, interesting. And I mean, we'll talk about power and sustainability later, but Adani is one of the biggest investors in renewable power in the world, not even just India, in the world, even though their investment is going to India. So that's always those kind of sides. And Javed, based on what you do and the eyes they keep on the market, you do a lot of work around especially hyperscalers as well. Give us your overview from Structure Research on what's happening in India, and how does that place India within the APAC region as a whole as well?
Yeah, I think the India market is like Sanjay said, it's super nascent in terms of internet infrastructure rollout, especially on the cloud region side. If you look at the entire size of the India market in terms of co-location capacity, I think it's roughly 600 megawatts, give or take, right, across the entire India. And that's the size of the Singapore market. And, you know, just to give you a sense of scale. And so the Singapore market, obviously Singapore's small population, but it really serves the entire Southeast Asia region. And if you look at just eyeballs in Southeast Asia, that's around 700 million. If you take all the Southeast Asia countries surrounding Singapore and combine the population, it's around 700 million, give or take. Whereas India has 1.4 billion people, right, roughly. And that's double Southeast Asia, but with the same amount of co-location capacity today as Singapore. So there's a huge runway that we think is going to impact a lot of expansion, a lot of growth. And one other thing I will note, I'm not sure many people know this, but AWS has in the past labeled one of their cloud on-ramps in India, an APAC Singapore on-ramp that's located in Mumbai. So for a good chunk of time, they were serving the India market through, you know, hubs like Singapore in the very early days. And I think they're reaching a point where that's no longer feasible from a latency, performance, data privacy, data sovereignty, and even just like the massive amounts of adoption, like Sanjay said, taking place in the market. They need to have localized infrastructure. And when they do plant their flag locally, they tend to do it big. We've seen that happen across, you know, key hubs like Mumbai, Chennai, as well as large land parcels being acquired in Hyderabad. So just very early stages of that infrastructure rollout that we're noticing.
Yeah, I mean, in India, you either go big or you go home. There's no way around it. But it's interesting that you mentioned data sovereignty as well, because that's been a big driver for data center builds. We've seen it in the past with Brexit and the UK, with the UK leaving Europe and GDPR coming into force. They drove a lot of construction here. We're seeing that in other regions of the world, including, of course, India. But then also the government really woke up to the potential in the last, say, 5 to 6 years, and really started creating different frameworks, which has now enabled a lot of companies to come into play. But speaking of companies coming to play, you guys started a joint venture. I think it's been, I don't know, 14, 15 months. You will know better when your birthday is. But it's been over a year now. So that's the most important thing. You've acquired land, you've built some stuff. You signed a lot of deals and partnerships with hyperscalers and enterprises locally. One that comes to mind is Flipkart. I mean, Philip, you've already kind of said the two companies bring the best of both worlds. So my question is, what is the best of both worlds? And what do you guys, as ICRA, what do you envision for the future? And then Jabez, I'll come into play as well, around how do you see ICRA kind of guiding the Indian market through its own expansion over the next few years? So maybe I'll go with you, Philip, as we mentioned the best of both worlds.
Yeah, sure. Look, you know, Sanjay and I almost talk daily, right? And it's that close coordination and alignment on you know, the go-to-market, on the construction, on the you know, the business planning and so forth throughout both organizations as they scale up. Obviously, EdgeConneX has a pedigree of, you know, building data centers, as we say, hyper local to hyperscale. So like these smaller edge data centers, cable landing stations, whatever to massive hyperscale data center campuses like we've built in Amsterdam and other markets around the world. And so it's that experience of giving the customer what they want, where they want, when they want, and applying that to the unique dynamics of India, right? And part of the challenge, I think, for many providers in the past and many companies looking to go to India centered around power, right? And we've touched on that briefly in the previous question, and that's one of the major points that Adani brings is not only reliable power, which is the issue, but renewable power as well. And being not only the largest solar manufacturer, but the solar provider in India is huge, right? Because you're kind of leapfrogging as you build out this national platform with state-of-the-art data centers powered by sustainable energy and so forth. And that's going to be critical for the long term to support our customer requirements that are going to be unique into India in a most sustainable way. And so, again, having built out so much infrastructure from airports to seaports to networks and everything that they've done in India and so forth, you have that local knowledge, right? And that's something that is important in a model for us as we enter markets like Asia. We're not going to be so presumptuous to say, hey, we can do what we do here and easily do it there. You need a partner that understands the local nuances of operating in a country like India. And again, that's what Adani brings in spades. And there's been this tremendous complementary and collaborative effort between the two firms to respond at the end of the day to the customer needs and giving them what they want. So I'll let Sanjay talk from his side, his view as well, and kind of how we work together in that respect.
Sanjay, you've got the stage now. I want to do an introduction in between what Phil just said.
Yeah. So from my side, Adani and EdgeConneX partnership is a partnership of synergy, which is a true synergy. And we say it's a 50-50 JV, and 100% coming in from both the organization makes this JV more stronger and stronger. Obviously, Adani, as Philip said, has got a strong national infrastructure, expertise with a ports, seaports, and airports, and a lot of B2C infrastructure, which can be leveraged. And obviously, sustainability and a power is whether it is renewable power or a distribution power. So those things are very important part of data center. And obviously, land is also one of the key elements which is important. And all of us know India is a developing country. We are expanding our roads. We are constructing our metro. The fiber also plays a key role in a data center. There are a lot of infrastructure which is available with Adani Group. And submarine cable also, we know last 2-3 decades, India is dependent on a Mumbai and Chennai. So Adani Group is working on a couple of projects of submarine to unlock this. This actually unlocking happening not only for a data center infrastructure today, but tomorrow when the 5G comes, we go to tier 2 and tier 3 towns. Actually, this has to get unlocked for at least 5-6 cities. So Adani has already put their foot in terms of this infrastructure, which is submarine cable, which is important. Industrial cloud and community clouds are also very important. Adani is playing a significant role in building the infrastructure, which is going to be used by today tier 2, tier 3, and the SMB and SMEs also. Enterprises are adopting at a very fast pace, and obviously the last 2 years have been very critical. The enterprise behavior has completely changed. Earlier they were a support system. Now they're at a driving seat, and all the growth happening in enterprise is actually led by the IT people. And I tell you the significant part which EdgeConneX brings in. Today, as Philip was saying, they have got expertise in terms of design, build, and operate. The human part is the most important part. Today, the significant change with EdgeConneX collaboration, what we have done is 30% of our human resources come from colleges. And straight from colleges, these guys are getting trained in Amsterdam and some other places, which actually they bring in global expertise and local know-how they know, and that get implemented in India, which is the first of its kind experience people are getting it. Standardization of safety, policies and implementation is the most important, because safety is paramount for our customer, and we work on a zero harm policy. The next is value engineering, and operation cost is also very key in this. That is something which we have learned a lot, and continuously this journey is helping us to become more and more efficient. And ultimately delivering delivering global standards for reliability through operational expertise. That is also, which is very important, which EdgeConneX brings in. Ultimately, data economy is all sudden is a borderless, and data is getting stored, processed across the globe. And we are actually giving a global experience to a local customer. We are giving a seamless experience. Edge OS is a platform which EdgeConneX have. When customer, whether takes in Chennai, Mumbai, or Amsterdam, or Dublin, actually similar kind of global experience customers are getting it. So that is something which is very important. Humans are getting trained across the globe. So these kind of expertise, which is helping, and obviously Adani brings in a lot of expertise on a power side of it. It's not only providing a power. I think reliability is the key. We know what is the condition of our power companies. When we talk to customer, 100% green is something important, and that too taking a commitment and a responsibility to provide reliability is the key. So combination is absolutely complementary, and obviously both the worlds are doing the best, and this collaboration has got a long way to go. I am sure this is going to become in our view, going to become a role model for the rest of the world.
Yeah. I mean, not abstaining from all the points that you raised, especially around power, I think the culture and the talents, and really raising new talents and equipping people with the skills for today and the future, I think there's something that's been quite a nice story to follow with this joint venture. I mean, we've seen that with EdgeConneX as well, especially on the veteran side, too, and with younger generations. We're now seeing EdgeConneX bringing that into India with ICRA, and we've spoken about that a few months ago. I think in London, the first face-to-face interview after COVID, big part of the conversation was around that as well, around how you guys are bringing culture and talent into India and how that's going to expand through universities and schools in the future. But Chavez, if we look at this joint venture, so if you look at Sanjay and Philip and what they're doing, what does this tell us of the Indian market, and how do you expect ICRA to push forward the market?
I think it reflects how challenging it is, like you said, to operate in markets across APAC, because it is a very fragmented region. Every market is unique regulations. There's unique set of conglomerates that operate in each of these markets, and they've been established for many years, decades. And so when you come to a market like India or Japan or Korea, those markets have are very characterized by large conglomerates, very mature IT outsourcing culture. You need to go in there with partners, because it's very tough to navigate it coming in just purely organically, or just from an international foreign standpoint. And so I think what we're seeing is a lot of JVs that have been done in Asia either check one out of the three boxes. You have the power generation box, you have the land real estate box, and you have the fiber box. So most companies or most operators would be happy to just partner with the JV partner that can check one of those three boxes. Like, hey, I'm working with a local real estate company so I can have access to land and identify, make site selection a lot easier for ourselves. That's already huge. But I think looking at what Adani brings to the table in terms of real estate development, Phil mentioned power, renewable energy generation, and then Sanjay recently brought up the subsea cable, the fiber side. I think those three components really make it a super compelling value proposition. And I think one thing that was interesting was what Adani announced last year with Flipkart, which they did a logistics and data center deal combined, because Adani does a lot of logistics, industrial development as well. And so to have that synergy with the local unicorns, the local hyperscalers in India, as well as the EdgeConneX platform coming in with experience relationships with global hyperscalers across the US and China, I think makes it a pretty compelling value proposition for the Indian market in my perspective.
Yeah, that's very interesting, especially in a country that needs so much growth in this sector. And it's something that we've seen in other countries as well in Asia, more than we've seen in the Western worlds, which makes it quite an interesting proposition regionally. But of course, I mean, power, again, power is the big topic of the moment anywhere in the world. I mean, power drives the data center market. Adani is a big player here. Adani has, I think you guys just surpassed around 25 gigawatts of renewable energy they've got. You're trying to reach 45 gigawatts by 2030. Gautam Adani, the CEO and founder, announced last year, I think it was late last year or early this year, a $20 billion package to get there by 2030. How are you guys going to use this energy, and what else are you doing in the buildings that you're going to raise from the ground to make sure that sustainability really stays at the forefront of what you're doing across India? Because then, I mean, India is also a huge country, so I assume that a data center in the north will probably have different requirements from a data center in the south. Correct me if I'm wrong, but can we just go through that a little bit? So how are you putting sustainability at the front of what you're doing? How does it differ across the country? Sanjay?
So our commitment to sustainability is very firm. Approach for sustainability is the way we design, the way we build, and the way we operate our data center. As Philip told you, and we are told in a public domain, we are going to build 1 gigawatt data center capacity with renewable energy. And obviously the motive is to reduce carbon footprint as much possible. Energy efficiency is something which is the most important. Industry leading PUE, advancement in our mechanical and electrical efficiency is also playing a key role. The second part of it is if we talk sustainability, there are multiple phases. Another is water resources management. Rain water harvesting is another piece which is important. Air cooled chillers, that is very important. How can we create an infrastructure which actually brings a requirement of a cooling? Let's assume today is 22 to 24 degrees Celsius. If this parameter itself goes from 28 to 34 degrees Celsius, then you are eliminating a power requirement itself. So we have to work with OEM, we have to work with the ecosystem, we have to see our RFPs are also designed in a manner so that we are able to reduce the carbon footprint. Recently, we got a IGBC Platinum certification at Chennai data center, which is one of our first step towards getting our sustainability. Experimenting with the shift of hydrogen economy also plays a key role. We are exploring ideas, leveraging hydrogen fuel cells in the data center ecosystem with a mission to remove complete dependency on a diesel generator. That is also another piece which is critical for this. Actually, social impact on all of this is creating a large India digital infrastructure, which actually helps community to develop, building on a diversity and actually inclusivity agenda is actually of a community of interest. So we are working with the communities. So those kind of projects have already kickstarted, and we are very proud. We are the first one to initiate such projects, obviously taking a guidance a lot from our EdgeConneX side. And we are adopting lot of technology which are helping us to be truly sustainable other than power. So coming to Adani, obviously, Adani, as you rightly said, 25 gigawatt portfolio going to 45 gigawatt. I tell you that the way you said is absolutely right. In terms of state to state, everything varies. So Adani has got the infrastructure of renewable power in most of these states. When we talk to a customer, we are not only solving their data center problem, we are talking to them to solve the organization problem. So we are solving hyperscaler or enterprise or a hyperlocal. We are talking to them, how can we solve their problem in terms of holistically for a sustainability? So then we talk this kind of holistic approach. People look up to us as a company who's more reliable in terms of having a sustainability mission. Power is the key, and other factors, hydrogen and water, what I said, also completes us in many ways.
And Philip, what else is EdgeConneX bringing to the table around sustainability? Because of course you've got a lot of experience building across the world and in some challenging markets as well, especially hot markets, as in weather-wise hot as well. What do you guys bring to the table on the green front?
Yeah, look, Zhao, I think sustainability is becoming kind of table stakes for us in the data center industry. It's a huge topic. of discussion. I'm sitting here in Ashburn, Virginia, who you never thought would have power issues, but that's now suddenly arising, and you see it arise, whether it's regulatory reasons or sustainability and the like. So the power aspect and the sustainability component is becoming one of the most critical components to the calculus of building data centers around the world. And again, this harks back to why we partnered with Adani, because for EdgeConneX, sustainability is core to our business. We talk about customers, people, planet, right? So take care of your customers, you take care of the people in your company, and you take care of your planet, and the rest should kind of sort itself out. It's a very kind of very simple and trite kind of mission and vision, but I think that nets it out. And so, and as Sanjay said, it's not just about the carbon and so forth. It's a holistic view on sustainability. So, and being very transparent in terms of what we're doing and how we're doing it. And it's one thing, as being part of the, say, infrastructure masons, and there's a lot of climate neutral data center pact. This is a collaborative effort. This is one effort that we don't compete on amongst data center providers and the like. We all have a common goal, a common desire to be more sustainable, more efficient. And so there's certainly a lot of sharing amongst providers and vendors across the entire supply chain of data centers, how we can be greener and more efficient and so forth. And if you look at the dramatic growth and kind of capacity and the volume of data that's being traversing the internet, and which is like just shooting up astronomically, but the amount of power that's being used is rising very gradually. So it demonstrates we as an industry of the tremendous improvements and efficiencies that we have accomplished. So again, this is core to our business, core to our ethos, and there's a lot of stuff that we're doing. And as Sanjay said, water, people, waste, everything we have to think about in terms of this is critical. And you start from the very beginning in India rather than the States. Some of the things that we're doing there are kind of leapfrogging what we're doing here. So it's really cool effort to be a part of.
I was actually going to ask, do you reckon that India, in a way, it's almost it can get ahead in the green race, because you're raising an industry from the ground, so you don't have to deal with legacy infrastructure.
Right.
Is that going to play in favor of the country?
I think so. And like the US, it's very regulated, right? And in terms of the grid and how you do that and so forth. So you can certainly leapfrog it in countries like India and others in that respect. I think is a very true statement. I defer to Jabez perhaps and his perspectives on these different emerging markets.
Yeah, James, let me bring you in and ask you what's your view of sustainability and power in India, and if you want, even within the wider Southeast Asian region.
Yeah, I think the main constraint, to be overly simplistic for the availability of renewable energy is frankly land, right? I think land is something that can enable a lot of renewable energy generation, and India has troves and troves of land. Same with China and Australia. You can argue to another extent, but a lot of markets in Asia that are experiencing a lot of constraints and challenges from a supply standpoint. Singapore, Hong Kong, even Korea to some extent is experiencing some sort of power constraint issues as well to certain levels, and even Japan is because there's a huge amount of demand for data center capacity. Hyperscalers are taking down multi megawatts of deployments, and the grid just wasn't they haven't built out power infrastructure to that amount of levels historically, and so to chase after all that demand coming in is really a overwhelming task for a lot of the local utilities in these countries. And so I think to be able to spin up large projects of renewable energy is very challenging in Asia unless you have a lot of land. So I do think that is a key differentiator for a market like India.
Interesting. And then if we look back into the company again, so you have a pipeline of about 1 gigawatt. And I assume that's only chapter 1 of this journey. but a lot of these facilities, and I mean, you're building it everywhere, as we mentioned. An interesting thing is everything is happening at the same time and very fast. How are you kind of managing to build so much so quickly? And I mean, give us an update of where you are right now, because next year is going to be a big year with a lot of ribbon cutting, if I understand it right. Maybe Sanjay.
Sure, that's an interesting question. So when we took our business plan of 1,000 megawatt, we are from day one with the collaboration with EdgeConneX, we are very clear in terms of what expertise each partner brings in. I'll start with the land first. Actually, as Jab said, land is the key. Actually, land last 1 year, 14 months have gone by in terms of getting a land parcel at a right place at a right time. And not only the land parcel, is actually availability of a power and the permits is the key to the success. So on the backside of what you see in front is people are working throughout states to make sure we get a right land with the power and permits. That has been a major achievement for us to get a land parcel which are good enough to cater more than 1,000 megawatt for next couple of years. That has gone well with us. In terms of design, actually standardization of design is a key to success. So whether we build for enterprise, whether we build for hyperscaler, and we build for multi-tenancy. I think that expertise we have picked up from EdgeConneX, and the collaboration happening, people are working around the clock, and we have got a very good saying in ICRA, sun never sets for us. When we sleep, actually EdgeConneX work, and vice versa. So that is something for an engineering team and a design team. They have worked around the clock to make sure we standardize our design. When it comes to implementation, I think clearly the value chain, what we have today and the OEM ecosystem, today Adani buys 100 times more than what we are going to consume in data center, because they are a large infrastructure provider in India. So we are leveraging their expertise and their value chain, what these guys have created in the last 2 decades. The third important aspect is obviously when you go and talk to customer, these obviously has to be sold by each one of us in ICRA and EdgeConneX. And while we are talking to customer, the kind of infrastructure what we're building in India is ultimately the kind of scale needed in India from last couple of decades, where the hyperscaler can reside and even enterprise can reside. When you get both of them under one roof, ultimately you are actually eliminating a lot of inefficiencies which are there on our network side. You practically bringing in no latency. So that is something which is when people talk to us, we actually truly tell them this is the infrastructure what we're building. As far as multiple projects goes in a one row, as you said, multiple cities we are working at, absolutely right. We have got a huge manpower force which actually copy paste the same processes, whether it is health, safety, security, and a build part of it, everything gets copy paste. So life becomes very easy. As far as collaboration goes with the EdgeConneX, every 2 weeks, 3 weeks, people are here, people are collaborating, people are coming in with a global expertise, making sure all the implementation happening in a complex environment where we work is truly important. As far as the newness goes in the industry, is today we are the first one to build steel infrastructure, which was not built. The cleanliness, the kind of the change you are bringing in the environment is very big. As far as strong OEM integration goes, obviously EdgeConneX have relationship with all the OEMs. As I said, Rani Group has got a lot of connect with the people. So efficient project management through a skilled resources and tools and project trackers also measuring people, and automation is also playing a key role to manage multiple projects, and which has been a key success for Adani and EdgeConneX. And that is something which is helping us to manage many more. And obviously, when we move to a next phase, which is the edge data center, then this will get multiplied day by day, because we have started working on because 5G is something which is on cards. And the best part is Adani Group has has participated, and the result is out today. Yeah, today the result was out. Adani is participating in 5G, and the kind of infrastructure we need at a smaller towns where you need a land, you need a power, and you need a telco. We have to have a collaboration which actually one partner or one partner or an ecosystem gets us this on a day one, and then just get a product which is DC in a box. So we are working on a multiple projects to bring in a newness and create newer customer which can actually adopt cloud or a data center.
Phil, give us an update on your sides. Talk us about this Edge chapter 2, 1.5. And also part of the transition is always ask you what's a new location that hasn't been announced that you're going to go into within India this time. Let's stick to the country within India.
Look, this next wave, it's funny, Zhao, we've been doing the Edge for, over 10 years, as we've talked about before, long before it became very cool and everybody's talking about it. Interestingly enough, we then had this capability to do kind of hyperscale build to suit, right? And people were like, well, that's not edgy. And it's like, well, look, our model was always to give the customer what they want, where they want, right? And the form factor, the scale didn't matter, whether it's 2 megawatts or 200 megawatts, it's really the same thing. You get the land, you permit, and you build it and power it, right? And operate it. And so, and that's what's allowed us to build out this global footprint now that we've had. We've scaled to LATAM and obviously throughout Europe and obviously Asia Pac. Coming full circle though is, you're really starting to see the Edge, scale in size and kind of scale in terms of the number of markets. The cloud is coming closer to the end user, right? Obviously the first wave was centered around content and bringing content closer to the eyeballs. Now you've got cloud going closer to the enterprise. You've got like multiplayer, cloud gaming. And then you have all these new use cases around the metaverse. You've got, VR, AR, autonomous vehicles, which are all kind of low latency dependent. You have large capacity, so there's a cost component and reducing that by bringing it closer to the customer. This is kind of driving the next wave of the Edge, where we're building larger facilities, kind of where we've already kind of planted our flag in this kind of, second, third data centers in a lot of these tier 2, tier 3 markets. And it's this distributed architecture. And again, when you think about it internationally, like, and say, Brazil was kind of the gateway for all of South America, but now you're seeing Buenos Aires and Bogota and Santiago. Every country is building out its kind of architecture to support that locally. And going back to India, right, it was Mumbai that was kind of the key market there. And as Jabez said, even Singapore was a means to kind of serve India, but that's just not the case. And so you need a much more distributed architecture now throughout India. Look, Chennai is a massive market in its own right? And you start going down the list in Bangalore and Pune and all that kind of these other markets, still millions of people, and you need the architecture to be closer, more proximate to those end users to better serve them from a user experience perspective, from a cost delivery perspective, and so forth. And it's, whether it's India, whether it's China, whether it's Indonesia, hundreds of millions of people and underserved digital infrastructure to today. So that's why you're seeing a lot of growth, not only in India, but throughout all of Asia, right? And a lot of these markets going beyond, in Europe, the flat D, right? Going beyond Singapore, Hong Kong, Sydney, kind of in Asia. You're just seeing a robust build out, and we're all building at max capacity right now. And it's we can't keep up with the demand. And so we're fortunate as one of the few industries to be, in this hyper growth mode, given all the other things that are kind of going on in this crazy world right now.
There's quite a good segue actually for my next question that I was going to ask Jabez. Jabez, as we see, so all these scaling out and expansions, everything's happening very fast at the same time. Do you think this is enough? Is it happening fast enough to cope with demand in India?
It is a good question. I think, typically the demand is always there for digital infrastructure, and usually demand tends to be also a function of supply, especially when the hyperscalers view it from a lease or self-build dynamic. You know, if the supply isn't there, they're going to build their own, which is what we've seen across many markets in Asia and in Europe and North America as well. So the hyperscalers are getting more sophisticated at building out their own infrastructure if need be, but they would also prefer to rely on third-party operators like an EdgeConneX in markets that are harder to navigate. They're more challenging to get permitting, approvals, site selection, and all of that stuff. I think it's sort of, and it's not either or. Sometimes they do it in tandem. Like for example, in India, like they're acquiring land in Hyderabad, but they're maybe leasing in Mumbai and Chennai, and so they tend to have a multi-pronged strategy when they approach this. And so that's sort of their way of hedging their bets against not fully being reliant on just self-built, but also not being fully reliant on the third-party operators as well. And so I think it's a very sort of a complex tension between how they view infrastructure expansion, because they want to expand as much as possible, but due to supply chain issues, and recently there's been reports of sort of a global fiber optic shortage as well. So I think there's many challenges that are limiting that infrastructure expansion, but that also is also a reflection of how much demand there is, right? To have a shortage means that there's huge amounts of demand for that type of infrastructure. And so given the overall macro environment, what's happening is that many companies and enterprises and even hyperscalers are prioritizing critical infrastructure rollout over sort of discretionary spend, that they can sort of cut these non-core capex or opex expenditures and repurpose that or fuel that back into allocating that for digital infrastructure expansion. So I think that's why we're seeing the data center industry being super resilient, even in a very uncertain macroeconomic environment.
Yeah, no, I mean, absolutely. We saw it throughout COVID, and we're seeing it now in what unfortunately it is a challenging 2022. Be more challenging to other industries than our industry. But I mean, bringing everything back into India again as well. I mean, as Philip said, it's really the scale, because I mean, a lot of the Indian cities, they have more population than the entire European countries, and it's not one or two countries, it's like several European countries, maybe like 30 of the 50 European countries. So it's a tremendous scale, an opportunity to build, which then is bringing me also to the question around Adani Group itself, because Adani positions itself as a holistic digital infrastructure provider, and the company is building a network ecosystem that would enable industries like data center connectivity and submarine infrastructure. Maybe Sanjay, maybe this one is more targeted at you. Can you talk about the synergies that EdgeConneX brings with these investments?
Sure. So as I started with Adani as a group, couple of strengths, I tell you the relevant one is utility fiber in India, which is called OPGW, optical ground fiber, which is very important. It actually travels along with the transmission lines. No one will ever dare to cut that cable, which is underground. Anyone can cut. So that is something which is a very unique proposition which Adani brings in for our data center, whether it is intercity or intracity network. That actually gives a lot of reliability for a data center, almost close to 100% uptime data center. The another is Adani Group is a holistically digital infrastructure provider, whether it is ports, seaports, and the airports. And airports will be leveraged in a big time for a EdgeConneX edge data center. Currently, we have couple of airports available. We have got a gas ecosystem which is currently available, and there is a lot of utility companies in India which can actually become a truly fiber provider, which we can bring into our data center. The second part of the national fiber system is we are creating a ecosystem which actually connects all the data centers of EdgeConneX and then ultimately connecting incumbents as well. That's another piece. The third piece is truly, if you look at India, we don't have carrier hotel today. And carrier hotel is very important when you are massifying the data center. And that is something which we are working on a project. So we are making sure we get truly carrier hotels, what you see in a developed country like US. That is another piece. And there is a lot of infrastructure required, which Adani has got already available in multiple towns. As I was saying, in a cable landing also, if you look at the seaports, what we have currently, the ports are almost in 13, 14 areas we have. And we are trying to build a domestic fiber cable, which actually travels along with the shallow water that is called pontoon. That infrastructure itself becomes very robust for us to provide a fiber system. So that is third part. Fourth part is government is also playing a very key role in creating this infrastructure. We have been working on a policy advocacy side of it with all the state and federal government, and they have been very cooperative. And there are some states which have already out with the policy. And these policies actually not only incentivize us, is actually incentivize customer as well. So those things, because when we go and meet the state chiefs, is actually looking at as a CEO of the company, how much investment one is bringing in the state, whether it is from a port side or a port side or a gas side of it, and obviously coupled with data center. So this helps us to bring in newness in India, and obviously this will be leveraged by all the data center operators. And India is going to leapfrog, as Philip was saying. These are the areas which are very important while creating a common infrastructure, whether it is fiber or a data center or a power. That is also very critical for the success of India. We have been working with the government to make sure we create common infrastructure which helps us to reduce cost, and that is something which we have kickstarted, and we are hoping this will go a long way, and we should be able to create more and more ecosystem which helps Adani and the overall industry to grow further.
I think the government is a really key aspect of everything that's happening in India, because it's really changed. And we see it now from the top to bottom. So with Prime Minister Narendra Moody, all the way from him, all the way down, getting involved with the data center industry directly. And then Philip, to kind of start closing off our conversation, how does the wider EdgeConneX portfolio play into the India adventure? What can people benefit from on both sides of the coin?
I thought you were going back to your question of where next. And
oh no, I won't do that. I feel like I always do that, and I feel it's getting a bit old now.
You always try to get me on that. Look, however, you do see, I will address it, generally speaking, last year, over the last year, we entered India, we went to China, Indonesia, right? You will continue to see significant amount of investments throughout Asia from EdgeConneX, driven partly by obviously our customers, as our legacy is. But these markets still are, in many respects underserved. Jabez touched on a number of those markets. We see opportunity there, and especially where there's challenges of entering the market, we've been very good at overcoming those challenges to kind of enter these markets successfully. And whether it's through a partnership, like a JV that we have with Adani, or an investment like we've made in China, or an acquisition in Indonesia, we'll pull the right lever to enter the market accordingly. And again, I think it's been a relatively short time. On the one hand, it's not been very long. On the other hand, it seems like a long time, because we've accomplished so much in India in such a short time. Really excited about what we've accomplished, but even more excited about what's coming ahead as we build out that platform. And, when we first came out, people thought we were crazy to say we're going to build out 1 gigawatt, right? That's more than we've built out in 10 years anywhere else, but we're well ahead of schedule, right? And that number might actually increase by the date that we had originally forecasted it, because of the progress we've made in such a short amount of time. So really excited about the India market, the success that we've had today, and where the partnership is going, and the success we've had with customers. So
I think that's quite, sorry.
No, that's it.
No, I think it's quite interesting that you kind of expect already to go above the 1 gigawatt, even ahead of time, because I think it really represents what's happening on the ground. So, and Jabez, last question for you. Picking up really on this point of how fast things are moving, how much growth it is needed. Let's just talk even the next 12 months. Let's not even go beyond the next 12 months. If we speak again in 12 months' time, where do you expect the market to be in India?
I do expect a lot of growth to happen centered around Mumbai and Chennai, because these are, like Sanjay was saying, these are natural aggregation hubs for submarine cables, and really the strength of hubs lies within their ability to connect to other markets and transfer data across multiple regions. So I do think you'll see a lot of activity in Mumbai, Chennai. The Noida market also, I've heard, has seen a lot of activity as well, given government requirements, and then Hyderabad from a self-build standpoint. So I think it's going to be multi-pronged, and I think you'll see those sort of core 5 or 6 India markets really start to accelerate in step with each other over the next 12 months. So that's just kind of my general take on the market. I know Sanjay is on the ground, so he's probably got a better sense of what's going on the ground.
I mean, there's definitely an exciting roadmap ahead. Do you want to add something, Sanjay?
Absolutely agree with him. The growth market, as he said, Chennai, Mumbai is growing at a very fast pace. Obviously, Hyderabad has also picked up big time, and Bangalore, we know, is the biggest market for enterprise. And Delhi, Noida, as he mentioned, that has also picked up very, very fast in last couple of quarters and continue to grow fast. The other part I want to add is today government is also using a lot of data center and cloud. That is also going to play a key role in tier 2 towns where the state data centers are, because those data centers are going to grow massively and they are going to adopt a lot of cloud, which is residing in the state data center. So tier 2 towns also, along with this 5-6 towns, are going to play a very key role in 12 months. And there is a massive plan which is coming in from the government. And the enterprise adoption is also very key. Last 24 months, people were stuck in a COVID and there were some challenges. Now people are just accelerating their action so that they should catch up today for next 5 years. Even when we talk to enterprise customers, in last 15, 20 years, I'm in this business, people used to talk about 1 megawatt or sub 1 megawatt. Now people are talking about 4 megawatt, 10 megawatt, 25 megawatt. So enterprises themselves are looking this industry and acceleration the growth. I tell you, the UPI itself is a major example of a growth in India. The UPI adoption has taken massively. Likewise, there are many more which are going to come when the 5G is coming in this year, October. So the growth, whatever we predict, the fortunate in India, let's assume we project 25% CAGR. We have always gone on a positive side of it. The growth has been always more than what we predict.
Yeah, and I mean, I like the point that you actually brought up tier 2 cities, because in the Western world, especially in Europe, it's taken years to start talking about them. And COVID has really catapulted the conversation around places like Madrid, Milan, Warsaw. In India, that's not happening. With India, tier 2 cities are part of the roadmap from the get-go. And I think that really shows the scale and the opportunity ahead of who's going in. But I mean, with that said, I mean, Sanjay Bhutani, Senior Vice President and Head of Data Center Business at EdgeConneX, Philip Marangella, Chief Marketing and Product Officer at EdgeConneX, and Javis Tan, Head of Research at Structure Research. Thanks so much for talking to me. That's all from us here at the Tech Capital. Thank you for watching and listening in. Do check our website and give us a follow on social media for more breaking and timely news from across the digital infrastructure sector worldwide. At the Tech Capital, you lead, we report. Bye for now.